Hello and welcome back to e-DIRAP interviews. Today's spotlight is on ICT for development in Nepal. Joining us today is Kishor Pradhan, Chief Executive Officer of Development Knowledge Management and Innovation Services Private Limited. Kishor is one of the authors of the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation section of the Digital Review of Asia Pacific, also known as DIRAP. But today he'll be highlighting some of the key changes and new developments in Nepal. Kishor, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, Christine.
Today, Kishor will outline the historical development of ICTs in Nepal, including the development and impact of ICT policies and people's access to ICTs. Kishor will also be highlighting some of the innovative ways Nepalese have used ICTs in various sectors. In particular, he'll be sharing his experience in the use of ICTs to tackle climate change issues. But firstly, Kishor, could you tell us about your work experience in the area of ICT for development and also about your company?
Thank you, Christine. I started this company just recently. It's been just little more than a year. And as the name itself implies, it's called Knowledge Management and Innovation Services. So the kind of work I'm trying to give a background in ICT, Knowledge Management and ICT for D is to provide services especially focusing on capacity building in knowledge management, focusing on development, how development organizations and development projects can perform better by doing more knowledge management and learning work, which of course they can do by using the different ICTs, information and communication technologies, how they can manage their data, information, what they have learned from different projects they have done so far, and how they can bring about change in how they do things looking into the future. So that's the basic idea behind this company. And we have just started, and we are working on a package to work on capacity building of development organizations.
Okay, thank you. Now give us an update on the state of ICT development use in Nepal, and also provide some background on how Nepal has reached this current state.
Right. So see, if you go back, the history of ICT being used in development sector, or like ICT being just used in general, people having access to ICT, like internet, email, having your website. It's not very long. It just started in the mid-90s when we had the first ISP, internet service provider, and which interestingly was not from the state, not from the government. It was an ISP called Mercantile Communications. It was a private organization which started providing internet services here in Nepal. So to be exact, I think it was around 1994-95. And the organization that I used to work for at that time, International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, was one of the first client customer of Mercantile Communication. And Mercantile had provided a server, a VSAT, the first VSAT to ICIMOD to use internet. And I think there were just about less than 1,000 people having access to internet that time in mid-1990s. And after that, the number of ISPs started increasing gradually. In fact, many of these NGOs and NGOs working in Nepal did not have access to internet, let alone like having a website. They did not even have access to email and all that. So we did a project from ICIMOD with IDRC support called Nepal Net. It was basically, the idea was to network the NGOs and NGOs working in Nepal by using internet, so that they have a common platform to share what they are doing and their information, their knowledge. frankly speaking, that time we didn't have slightest idea about what we were doing was knowledge management. There was no such thing called knowledge management. We used to simply call it managing information for mutual sharing and mutual support. So that project, I think it was about 30, 40 NGOs. They were given a training on how to use internet, how to use email, how to design a website, how to upload it on a server, and literally, in fact, the project distributed computers, and for I think for about 6 months, internet connection also was provided by the project, Nepal Net. So that from that you can understand like what was the state of access to internet in the mid 90s. So gradually after Mercantile, there was I think there were two more internet service providers that the project worked with. One was WorldLink, and which we had just started. In fact, the first big project they did was with the NepalNet project, and we used WorldLink to get connections for the NepalNet project partners for about I think 15 of them, and there was another one called CCA also, computer and service limited. So it was like that. But suddenly, like after the 90s, 2000, the number of ISPs also increased, and of course, people also started having more access to internet, and this, in my observation, happened because the government also opened up policies, because till 2000 Nepal did not have any IT policy. It was again through ICIMOD we did a Nepal IT. This was again supported by IDRC, and we supported the government of Nepal. We worked with the national commission and developed this Nepal IT Policy 2000, which is called in fact IT Policy 2000, Nepal IT Policy 2000. So it was all the beginning of the 20th century that in 2000 that Nepal had a full-fledged IT policy, which was then onwards supposed to guide Nepal on like who can have ISPs, what ISPs can do, and how ICT is going to be mainstream in development efforts as well as different sectors in Nepal.
Thank you, Kishore. Can you highlight some of the key changes to Nepal's ICT policies and strategies in the past few years?
Mm-hmm. Right. Like I told you earlier, the first policy came into place in year 2000, and the policy itself is called Nepal IT Policy 2000. So after that, in 2008, the IT policy was amended because there were problems like there were the cyber crimes and some criminal activities using ICTs like internet, computers. In fact, mobile phones also were increasing. So the government had to amend that IT policy, and in 2008 they added to that policy another act called what they call it Electronic Transaction Act. And that Electronic Transaction Act 2008 regulates the users of ICTs, especially internet, and what you can do with internet, what kind of website you can have, and of course the content regulation also, as well as that e-commerce. The banks can have electronic transactions of money or fund now that they can do online payment, things like that, has been incorporated by Electronic Transaction Act 2008. And when you look at strategies, there have been several master plans developed by the government. For instance, when you look at in the education sector, there is a master plan called ICT in Education Master Plan, which in fact the government presented later last year in September in the UNSCAP meeting, which is yet to be implemented. I think they just presented a master plan, And of course, there is this EGMP also, e-governance master plan also, which was in fact, I think, finalized just last year. And these plans are there. I mean, the governance, e-governance master plan, and applying ICT in education master plan. And these are the plans by the government. But if you look at on the non-state sector, non-government sector, what the private companies or entrepreneurs are doing, you can see quite widely that most of the educational institutions here in Nepal have been using ICTs in education. Like they do have online courses and they do online exams also. And I mean, as far as governance of educational institutions are concerned, also you can submit online forms, download forms, which if you look at it on the government side, well, as far as I know, as a taxpayer, you can download a tax form from the internal revenue office website, and you can fill in the data of the tax you have paid also. Such small, I mean, e-governance activities are there also, services provided by the government. And just recently, it's been not even a year, the government of Nepal, I think with support from KOICA, the Korean International Cooperation Agency, has just started a national data center also. So, which is supposed to provide all the data, official data, accessible to the public, make it accessible to the public as well as anybody else who needs it. At the same time, like when you look at ICT, the development of ICT and ICT policies here in Nepal, there have been parallel development regarding information also in this country as well as media laws and things like that also. So we just have, it's been about 2 years now, this Right to Information Act, which of course is very much related to other ICT policies also. How much of official information, right to information we have, which we can demand by using ICT, the public can demand by ICT. So there have been policies like that, which have been in place now since 2000, and if you look at the strategy, how the government of Nepal is looking at either further mainstreaming ICT in different sectors, economic or health or education sectors, or like using ICTs for governance, uh, the government do have a strategy. Like when you look at 10, 15 years ago, there was no such thing as a central portal where you can go and find out about all the authorities, all the ministries. Now that is more streamlined. The government of Nepal, through the Ministry of Information and Communication, is trying to standardize the government's online presence also. I mean, they use a common server which is hosted by this Ministry of Information and Communication, this Ministry of Science and Technology, and all the government offices and the ministries are regulated by the server. Uh, I mean, like they have to go through that server so that they have a standard format, standard domain name, and the information that goes out from the government is also in a way kind of centralized, but at the same time accessible to the user through one stop, through one point. So these are the things which are there in place right now as far as like government policies and strategies are concerned.
Okay, so it seems like Nepal has put in place a framework already with a set of policies and strategies that then implementing agencies can then take this strategy forward
Right.
to implement ICT for development in a coordinate way. Could
Right.
you share with us some of the key ICT for development initiatives, either by government or civil society, that are happening now or are being planned?
Well, the government of Nepal, see, like when the IT 2000 policy was enacted, so that led to the institutionalization of this NITC, National Information Technology Center, right? So that was the government body which was supposed to handle ICT and development here in Nepal. And later on, when the government changed, another high-level body was formed, which is still in existence. It's called like High-Level Commission on Information Technology, right? So these are the two main government agencies who look after how ICT can be used in different sectors, whether it's economic or education sector, for development, right? And NITC and High Level Commission on Information Technology, both these agencies have been working on telecenters here in Nepal for quite some time. It's been more than 10 years. I mean, they have been working on capacity building in terms of like how telecenters can be established and the technology part also. And if I'm not mistaken, I think government had planned to set up 1,500 telecenters at some point. And right now, I think there are about like 500 to 700 telecenters, and which, of course, all of them may not be operational. So there have been initiatives like that also. So at the same time, if you look at in the health sector, I mean, through these telecenters, the basic idea is like the rural communities can have access to, information on or services on like say health, education, governance, policies, and all that. That's the basic idea with the telecenters. How efficiently the government service information or the services itself could be provided to the rural communities. And and in the health sector, if you look at in the non-governmental sector, there have been quite a bit of projects like the teaching hospital used to run a project called HealthNet, and recently a project has been started by a couple of doctors here who are trying to put together all the professional doctors registered with the Nepal Medical Council in one place, so that whoever needs to consult a doctor can, with an expertise or a specialist, can go to that portal, can have access to the phone number, the doctor works in which hospital, and has a clinic timing, when, and things like that. So there have been initiatives like that also. And interestingly, besides like since like Nepal just finished its in a situation, we were like under a conflict situation for more than a decade. There have been efforts to use ICT for the peace process also. Multilaterals like UNDP and several other donors working in Nepal, like SDC, the Swiss, the Germans, European Union, of course, they have been using ICTs in the peace process, basically in the sense that how efficiently and quickly, information on a conflict situation can be communicated. So there is a response to it, and not only in like post-conflict situation or in the peace process, uh, uh, they have been used in like disaster management also, especially for humanitarian response.
Okay, thank you. Could you also share with us your insights on the issue of access to ICTs in Nepal, particularly the use and access of mobile phones, and how
Right.
this has changed the various ICT policies and strategies among government, and also in strategies for developing these telecenters. Are people still preferring to go to these telecenters, or in terms of receiving services, do they prefer the use of the mobile phones?
hmm Yeah, I have to admit, Christine, I forgot to mention, like, when I was talking about development of ICTs in Nepal, I was just like talking about internet. Well, as anywhere else in the world, The use of handheld devices like mobile phone has been really rapid in Nepal also. See, mobile phone was introduced just around the time internet was also introduced in Nepal. But when you look at the access to mobile phone right now, so more than 60% of the population have access to mobile phone, according to the latest data provided by ITU, right? So which definitely means like mobile phone is more accessible and what you can provide through the mobile phones, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the government of course provides mobile phone service through an entity called Nepal Telecom, which is a semi-government organization, and of course there have been private service providers also, like we have Ansel and there's UTL. So all these they provide like 3G and CDMA services also. So the access has been quite impressive as far as mobile phone is concerned. And to get back to your question, when have more access to mobile phone, do they really need to go to a telecenter and log into a machine computer and get access, which is true. That's going to be kind of like outdated and obsolete, given that people have access in their hand. They don't really have to go to a telecenter, right?
Yeah.
But the issue again is like, see, what kind of content you would be able to provide through mobile phone, right? As far as I know, there have been mobile phone campaigns. Like for instance, just recently there was this big campaign for GAV, gender violence against women, BAO, right? So I was getting SMS alerts like, I mean, what are the issues with important national days like HIV/AIDS Day or like Environmental Day. Organizations like who do advocacy work are using SMS alerts for just sending around messages that today is an Environmental Day, blah blah blah. What are you doing? Or did you plant a tree? Things like that. Yeah. So I would definitely say like the mobile phone are more accessible, but the there is like what is being accessed using the mobile phone or what is being provided also as well. What kind of service or information is being provided.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for that insight. Now, through your work, you have been involved with using ICTs to address climate change issues. Could you share
Mm-hmm.
some of your experience and perspective in this area with us?
Right. So see, I have been like in this IT for the sector. I started like with first just networking and all that. So in the past 10, 15 years, uh, when we first started also, there was this issue of capacity. I mean, how much of capacity you have to use the technology to communicate or advocate or put across the message on a certain issue. That uh, you can hear me now, Christian?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay, right, yeah. So, I was telling about how ICT being used in climate change, right? Yeah. So, yeah, right. So, I think, when we started first working on ICT for D, talking about 10, 15 years ago, it's like the first challenge was capacity itself. Like, people, how much people had access to internet or like the best, very simple technology or the computer itself, or like other devices also, like say not only computers, ICT could be like mobile phones, like radio and all that. And those things have definitely changed now. And now I think it's moving at some point when it was just very broad. We were just talking about like ICT for D. Now I think we're talking more special, ICT for health. In health also, it could be for HIV/AIDS or like reproductive health or mortality, child health, or when you look at it, environment also, it could be more focused on climate change or water or disasters and all. So that's the trend I see. And when there's a need for more specialized use of ICT also, right? Some of the Few things that I did like was I did a training in South Asia. This was about almost 7, 8 years ago, and this was that time the need was very simple. We were talking about like multimedia reporting on climate change. So we were giving training to media practitioners from South Asia on how multimedia, graphics, photos, text, audios, videos can be used reporting on different climate change issues or for simply giving information on climate change, right? And those things have moved a bit forward now, and I think people are talking about more specialized use of ICTs. Like we are talking more like GIS, hazard mapping, and all that. If there is a happen, there are simulation works now these days, and of course ICT is very much being used on monitoring, like the temperature change or the rain pattern change and all those things, and really like putting the data together or information together and making it accessible also, more actionable also. So that's where I think is the need also right now. And of course the work has already been started, but the challenge is still is like how it can be used more efficiently and more in time. Like for instance, what happened here recently in Nepal and India, they were the monsoon was early, right? Monsoon was early by a week, and there was a lot of rain, and there were a lot of landslides and floods, and more than 1,000 people died in Uttarakhand in India, and many people died here in Nepal. I'm sure like those organizations responsible for monitoring weather pattern, they had the data, they knew the information, like maybe there is a change in pattern this year, and maybe if was provided to certain government or governing agencies in certain rural areas to alert them, like there is a change in monsoon pattern this year, maybe we would be getting torrential rain a week earlier. That could cause some damage. That could have helped to mitigate the damage, I would say. The challenges are still there. The data information we have, how it can be more efficiently and effectively is supposed to benefit.
Thanks. Kishore, one final question on the future outlook for ICT for development in Nepal. I've been interested to hear your perspective on the changes and advancement that we should be expecting in the next few years in Nepal. What is your perspective on the changes and advancement that we should be expecting in the next few years in Nepal?
Like, see, I mean, the problem we are having in this very simple audio interview itself is an indication, right? The point I'm trying to make is like looking into the future. Though, like we have in Nepal right now more than 40 ISPs, internet service providers, and there are like rural network service providers also, about a dozen of them, and there are separate VSAT service providers also. At the same time, like we have about 3, 4 these mobile phone service providers, right? So I mean, when you look at it as institutional development, the institutions are there, I would say, in place. For a small country with about like 27 million population, we already have about 40, 50 ISPs. The government, NTC, Nepal Telecom, is also there, and there are several rural network service providers also, right? So now I think the focus should be on how the services can be more enhanced. You know, it can be made more efficient. I get a connection at home, internet connection, which works very less in a week. It's always a problem with the bandwidth. Though mine is supposed to be a broadband, so there is a need for like making the services being provided more efficient. And of course, I would say like the government also has to look into this. How they have given licenses to all the ISPs, how they are providing the service, whether the service they are providing is like, in compliance with what they have agreed with the government to provide as a service or not. All these things need to be monitored. And of course, like we just have had, it's been not even a month, WiMAX being like provided by the National Telecom Service, and not many people are sure about whether it will work or not. I mean, WiMAX as a technology, we all know, who have been working in IT sector for a long time, that it's supposed to be a wide maximum network, Wi-Fi network. You should be able to use WiMAX from the network from anywhere else, whether you're up in the mountains or like down in the sea. So I mean, all these services have come to Nepal, but the challenge still is like how these services can be provided efficiently. More to the satisfaction of the users, and so that it can be used more efficiently in other development sectors also.
Okay, thank you. Kishore, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you,
Right.
and we look forward to keeping in touch with you for latest ICT updates in Nepal.
Thank you so much, Christine. It was a pleasure talking with you also. Thank you so much.
Thanks. We'll
Bye.
be posting this interview recording and a written summary
Right.
to the e-DIRAP community to comment on.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for listening. You can find more information about ICT for development in Nepal at the e-DIRAP website, digitalreview.asia. Thanks again, and goodbye for now.
Thank you.